So good morning to all. Only 6 of you have joined me. Please tell others to join soon. So in the last class, we were in the last section of module 3, that is embedded firmware development languages, and we had discussed the three languages, namely the assembly language based development, then high level language based development, and mixing both high level language and assembly language. And then we discussed the drawbacks, the advantages of each languages. That is both, if we are going to develop firmware in assembly language, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, and if we are going to develop in high level language, what will be the advantages, what will be the disadvantages, and there are certain cases where we need to mix the assembly language with high level language, and in those cases also we can do it if the cross compiler provides the support. And we had discussed a code in C, how we can write it in embedded C. We have to use the pragma, the preprocessor directives corresponding to the assembly code that we are going to write. And the last section we dealt with a mixing assembly and a high level language, and that's called inline assembly, and where we can write the assembly code within the C program. And when we write assembly code inside a C program, we have to use the special assembler directives. And hope you remember the directive which we had used. Do you remember the directive which we used to write assembly code inside a C program? Anyone? For inline assembly, we can use assembly language instructions inside high level language, and here we have chosen the high level language C. And C, because there is the cross compiler, C cross compiler developed by Keel Software, and the name of that cross compiler is C51 cross compiler, and this cross compiler is specially designed for the microcontroller 8051, and so it is named as C51 cross compiler. And this cross compiler, it supports mixing assembly and high level language, so that we can write assembly language instructions inside high level languages. And do you remember the preprocessor directive which we had to use in order to write assembly language instructions inside C program? Do you remember the directive? Hello? The last section, the last part, we had discussed this. Yes, Shabna, it's hash pragma ASM, and inside that we can write the assembly code. For example, if I want to move a number 13 to a particular register, say accumulator register A, then after writing hash pragma ASM, then inside that pragma, I can write the assembly code like MOV A comma 13H, and this in a directive, which is an instruction, a direction to the compiler, cross compiler, that anything after the hash pragma ASM directive is an assembly language instruction. And to show the end of this block, we end it with hash pragma end ASM. Hash pragma ASM shows the beginning of the assembly block of assembly code, and then hash pragma end ASM will show the end of the assembly code. And these are the three ways. So the last method of mixing assembly and high level language was called inline assembly, and we had discussed the different ways of developing firmware using different languages in module 3. Okay. Any doubt? So, Anyway, now I'm going to module 4. So shall I proceed to module 4 now? Any doubt in module 3? Do you have any doubt in module 3? Okay. So now let us begin with module. Only 20 of you are present here. 7 are absent. Okay. Now module 4. So this module, it deals with integration and testing of embedded hardware and firmware. Integration and testing. What do you mean by integration and testing? You might have studied in software engineering. What is integration? In different phases of software engineering, what are the different phases of software engineering? Anyone? Do you remember the phases of waterfall model? Yes, requirements analysis, then after requirements analysis, if we follow this waterfall model, then we start with feasibility study. That is, we check if developing a product is financially and technically feasible. Only if it is financially and technically feasible, we go on to the next phase of software engineering, that is gathering the requirements from the customer. Only if we are sure that we will be able to complete the product within the cost specified and if all technical if it is technically feasible, then we need to gather the requirements. So after feasibility study, we go to requirements analysis. Then we design the project, a product to be developed. After design, we go for coding, and after coding, the next phase is integration and system testing. Likewise, here also we have discussed how we can write firmware using different languages, and in third module. Next, we are going to learn how this firmware developed in different languages can be integrated into the hardware unit, because embedded system consists of both hardware and software. We have to combine the two in order to get a working product. So how can we integrate the firmware written in some language, whether it is assembly language or high level language, or mixing both assembly or high level and high level. Anyway, we have to integrate this firmware into the hardware unit, and then we have to test whether it is working properly. So this module 4 deals with integration and testing of embedded firmware. Okay. Is it clear? So what is module 4? What does module 4 deal with? The entire module 4 deals with what? Integration and testing of embedded firmware. So hardware and firmware, because we have to integrate firmware into the hardware and test if both are working properly. So let us first see how this integration is done, integration of hardware and firmware. As we know, without firmware, the product that we are designing will not work. That is, it will not provide the desired functionality. So the process of embedding firmware into a hardware means that we are providing intelligence to the product. That is, the product is going to implement its functionality only if we embed the firmware inside the hardware. And this embedding process, how can we embed firmware into the hardware units? That is what we are going to describe now. So integration of hardware and firmware, it deals with embedding of firmware into the target hardware board. So you will have a target system on a board. There you will be having processor, memory, and all the necessary devices for building the entire product, and we are going to embed the firmware into that target board, into the memory of that target board. And this process of embedding it is just a process of embedding intelligence to the product, because only if there is firmware embedded into the system will the product perform its desired functionalities. So this embedding process and how we can embed firmware into a target processor board is the main section that we are going to deal with in this module. Now, firmware embedding techniques can be applied. Now, as I said earlier, in the first module, embedded systems can be either OS-based embedded systems or it can be non-OS-based embedded systems. That is, it is not necessary that all embedded systems should have an OS. Simple applications like electronic toys and all, they don't have an OS. So there can be non-OS based embedded systems, and whereas for real-time applications, where the system responds to real-time inputs, then there is a need for operating system, because there you need to schedule tasks, multiple tasks will be running, and multiple scheduling algorithms need to be implemented. In such cases, there should be an operating system. So firmware can be embedded into two types of embedded systems. That is, one is OS-based embedded systems, and another is non-OS-based embedded systems. So we have to study the two cases. That is, embedding firmware into non-OS-based embedded systems and embedding firmware into OS-based embedded systems. So the broad classification based on operating system is embedded systems can be classified as OS-based embedded systems and non-OS-based embedded systems. So we have to consider both the cases, and embedding OS into these two types of embedded products is different. So that's why we are considering it as two different cases: embedding firmware into non-OS-based embedded systems and embedding firmware into OS-based embedded systems. So first we are going to deal with embedding firmware embedding techniques for non-OS based embedded systems. So what are these non-OS based embedded systems? Is it clear to you? Am I audible to you? Okay. So firmware embedding techniques for non-OS based, that is, those embedded systems that do not have an operating system. So the non-OS based embedded systems, they store firmware on in the on-chip processor. That is, there will be a processor that controls the entire system, or there can be a microcontroller controlling the entire system. So this firmware is loaded into the processor memory or to the on-chip processor, or it can be a microcontroller memory, or it can be an off-chip memory which is plugged into the target board, like the flash memory, NVRAM. NVRAM is non-volatile RAM. Then the flash memory, etc. These we can embed firmware into these devices, and then we can plug it into the target board. And the various techniques for embedding firmware into the target board are as follows. There are four basic techniques for embedding firmware into the target board for non-OS based embedded systems. These are the four techniques for embedding firmware into the target board for non-OS based embedded systems. Is it clear? So we are embedding firmware into the target board for non-OS based embedded systems. There are four techniques for embedding firmware into the non-OS into the target board for non-OS based embedded systems. The first technique is known as out-of-circuit programming. The first technique for embedding firmware is known as out-of-circuit programming. The second technique is in-system programming, or we call it as ISP. Then third technique is in application programming, or we call it as IAP. And then the fourth method is use of factory programmed chips. And these are the four techniques for embedding firmware into the memory of the target board And these embedded systems, they do not have an operating system. Is it clear? So how many techniques are there for embedding firmware into the target board for non-OS based embedded systems? How many techniques? 3 techniques? Amrita, you got only 3 techniques? Okay, Ashwati, 4 techniques. 4. Amrita, is it clear now? There are 4 techniques. Okay. What are the 4 techniques? Do you remember the names? First one is out of circuit programming. Out of circuit, taking the chip out of the target board and then programming it. Out of circuit programming. We'll come to it in detail later. Then second is in system programming. I'm not removing the chip from the processor board. Instead, I'm programming it while the chip is in the target board itself. And that is called in system programming. And in application programming is providing some facilities to the end user to alter the firmware. That is in application programming. And then use of factory program chips. That is, the firmware is embedded inside the chip during manufacturing time itself. And that is use of factory program chips, usually done for mass production. So these are the 4 techniques based on which we can embed firmware into the target board for non-OS based embedded systems. First is out-of-circuit programming, second is in-system programming ISP, third is in-application programming IAP, and fourth technique for integrating firmware is use of factory programmed chips. Is it clear? Hello, is it clear now? Okay. So first one, out-of-circuit programming. Now what is out-of-circuit programming? So as I said earlier, the first point to be noted here is programming is performed outside the target board. Now there is a target board into which all devices are plugged in, where the microcontroller or the processor is plugged in, and you have it is this target board that we are going to use as our embedded use in our end product, or we design all our functionalities into this target board. We implement all the functionalities into this target PCB board, and into this board there will be various devices connected, and a controller or the processor will be there in this board, and memory will be also there, and all hardware units will be plugged into this target board. So programming, now we are going to embed a firmware into the target board, and it is the firmware is embedded by taking the chip out of the target board, and then we are, after programming the chip, we are then inserting it into the target board. So the chip is taken out of the target board, it is programmed, and then it is put back onto the target board. This is known as out of circuit programming. So the chip which we have to program, or the chip into which we want to embed a firmware, is taken out of the target board, and it is programmed externally using some other devices, and then we are plugging it back into the target board. This process is known as out of circuit programming. So anyway, we have to embed our firmware into a programmable chip, into the microcontroller memory, or use an external memory, as I said earlier, like flash memory or NVMe, etc. So we are taking the chip out of the target board, then programming it using another device, and then we are placing it back into the target board. This is known as out of circuit programming. Is it clear? Is it clear to you? Hello? So the next point describes it in detail. That is, the processor or the memory chip into which the firmware needs to be embedded is taken out of the target board, and it is programmed with the help of a programming device. The programming device is an external device, and this device is used for embedding firmware into the memory chip. And that external device which we use for embedding firmware into the memory chip is called the programmer. So there is a programmer device, and we plug in the memory chip into the programmer device. We program the chip, and then after programming the memory chip, we are placing it back into the target board. And this process is known as out of circuit. We are removing the memory chip out of the circuit which we have designed, plugging it into a programmer device, and after embedding this programmer device help us to embed a firmware into the memory chip. And after embedding the firmware inside the memory chip using the programmer, we will take the chip back and connect it into the target board. And now the firmware is embedded, and now then we, after embedding the firmware, the target board we can power up the target board and check the functionalities. Is it clear? The second point describes what this mechanism is. Is it clear to you? Hello? Nobody is responding. Okay. No, it's nothing but we are taking the chip to be programmed out of the target board that we have designed, and we are programming it using another device called the programmer. And this programmer helps us to embed firmware into this chip. And by connecting it to a PC, the programmer will be connected to a PC. We can program it, we can write a program inside the PC. From the PC, the programmer will help us to burn this code into the memory chip, and from the memory chip, this memory chip is then transferred to the target board. So this mechanism, this method of embedding is known as out of circuit programming, since we are taking the memory chip out of the target board and then programming it and then replacing it back into the target board. So this the sequence of operations can be summarized in the following steps. The operations for embedding firmware with the help of a programmer. Programmer is an external device, and this device we can plug our memory to be programmed into this programmer device, and this programmer device will be connected to a PC. And inside the PC, there will be utility programs or driver programs supporting the programmer. And using this program, utility program, we can write our code and then burn it into the memory that has been connected to the programmer. So what are the different steps for programming the chip using out-of-circuit programming is summarized here. That is, the first step, connect the programming device to the specified port of the PC. That is, there can be USB port, COM ports, parallel ports, etc. in the PC. Now you can connect the programming device. It is the external device that helps us to embed firmware. So you take there are different programmer devices available in the market for embedding firmware. Take one of the programming device and then connect it to the PC through USB port or any parallel port or COM port, etc. Then next we have to power up the device, that is on the programmer device. The power indicator LED will be on now. Just like you're plugging your USB into the system, we are just plugging in the programming device into the system. And then USB doesn't have any ports to connect another device, but this programmer device has port to connect an external device, and we can connect the memory chip into this programmer device, and we can transfer the program in our PC directly into this memory chip that is connected to the programmer device. So the next step is power up the device, that is power up the programmer device. And then third step, execute the programming utility on the PC. We have connected the programmer device to the PC, and now there will be utility programs running on the PC. And using this programming utility programs, we can ensure that proper connectivity has been established between the PC and the programmer. And if there is an error in connectivity, then we can turn off the device and start try again. If there is still error persists, then we have to contact the vendor. So connect the programming device, turn on the device, and execute the utility program on the PC. And on the programmer device, there is a socket called the ZIF socket. The programmer device has a socket called the ZIF. ZIF is zero insertion for ZIF socket, And this zip socket, there are pins to unlock the zip socket, and unlock the zip socket by turning the lock pin on the programmer device, and then insert the device to be programmed. That is, if you have a memory chip to be programmed, insert that device into the programmer device and into the open socket. And the method of insertion will be given in the instruction set of the instruction manual of the programmer. And after insertion, lock the zip socket. You have to open the zip socket, insert the memory chip, and then lock the zip socket, and then select the device name from the list of supported devices in your PC. And once you select the device, load the hex file which is to be embedded. The hex file will be inside the PC. Load the hex file into the hex file to be embedded into the device, and then program the device. There will be options to burn this program into the memory chip, and so program the device by the program option of the utility program. And once you program, you start this option to program. You have to wait till the completion of the programming operation until the hex code is transferred to the memory chip. And that is till the busy LED of the programmer is off. Once the busy LED of the programmer is off, it indicates that the entire hex file has been transferred to the memory, that is the memory chip that has been connected to the programmer device. Then the next step is once it has been completed, successfully transferred, there will be LEDs indications for that. The green LED for success and red for error. And if it has been successfully loaded into the memory chip, then you can unlock the zip socket, because we have inserted the memory into the zip into the zip socket. So we have to unlock the zip socket, take the memory or the controller memory out of the programmer, and then we can plug it back into the target board. Now the firmware, after once all these steps have been successfully done, the firmware is successfully embedded into the device, and next we have to insert this device into the target board and power up the board, and then test it for the required functionality. Now, this is how the firmware inside the PC has been transferred into the target board memory using an external device called the programmer. And this zip socket is designed in zip socket in the programmer device. It is mostly designed to accommodate DIP chips. What is DIP? DIP. What is DIP chips? What is DIP chips? Hello? You might have studied it in microprocessor. What are DIP chips? DIP is dual inline processor. Dual inline. You might have seen the microprocessor with pins on either side, isn't it? In microprocessor 8085, and all, you might have seen the pins on either side of the dual package. The dual package is the black package that you can see when you take the processor in your hand, and then there will be legs on either side. If there are pins on either side, then we call it as a dual inline package. So that is this programmer, it supports DIP chips only. So this is the first mechanism for transferring firmware into the target board of a processor, into the target board. And that method is called out-of-circuit programming. Is it clear to you? Hello? Do you have any doubt? You may ask your doubts. So this technique is nothing but in order to embed firmware into the memory, into a target processor chip, then we have to take the chip out of the target board and plug it into another device called the programmer. And then you connect this programmer to your PC. And inside the PC, you will be having your hex file of the firmware that is to be embedded. From there, you are transferring that hex file into the target memory or target processor or memory through the programmer device. And this programmer acts as an intermediate device for transferring the utility the program hex file in your PC to the target memory. So this memory is plugged into the program, and from there, after burning the firmware into the memory, you're just taking it out of the programmer and plugging it back to the target board after burning firmware into that chip. So this is known as out-of-circuit programming. So there is a programmer device into which we can plug in the memory or the dual package chips, and then we can burn firmware into those chips using the programmer device. So there are advantages and disadvantages for this mechanism also. If you don't have any doubt, then I can go to advantages and disadvantages section. Do you want me to repeat the steps once again? Hello? Do you want me to repeat the steps? Anyone? Hello? So I'm going through it once again. So in out-of-circuit programming, I want to program my target, the memory using an external device called a programmer device. I'm going to program embed firmware into the target memory of the processor using an external device called the programmer device. And so what I have to do is I have to take the memory out of the circuit which I had designed, plug it into a programming device. And there is a programming device available for embedding firmware. It is available, and this with a zip socket, and we can insert the memory into the zip socket, unlock the socket, insert the memory, and then lock the socket, and connect the programmer device to the PC through serial through your USB or COM port, parallel port, etc. And once you connect it to your PC, you can transfer the hex file that you have designed in your PC into the memory or which has been connected to the programmer. And the sequence of steps, there will be utility programs running on the PC. Just turn on the program, start the program button, and the program that is in your PC, that is the hex file in the PC, will be transferred to the memory, and that is connected to the programmer device. And once it is successfully transferred, the power indication will show us whether it has been successfully transferred or not. And if there's a green LED on, then it has been successfully transferred. The firmware has been successfully transferred to the programmer, and from there, the memory can be removed from the socket. By unlocking the socket on the programmer, you can remove the memory and then plug it back to the target board after embedding the firmware. So now the firmware has been embedded and you have transferred the chip back to the target board. And now turn on the target board, power on the target board, and you will get the, you can test whether the desired functionalities are met by the firmware which we have just embedded into it. Now suppose if there is an error, what should be done? Suppose there is an error in that firmware which I had, what should we do? Embedded a firmware is using the programmer device into the memory, and then memory is connected back to the target board. Once I have completed this operation, I can power on the target board and check for the desired functionality, whether the firmware is functioning according to the desired functionalities that I had written using the program. So if it is not functioning properly, then what should be done? If the firmware is not functioning as per the requirements, what needs to be done? Or suppose there is an error in the program, what should be done? So that is what we are discussing in drawbacks of out-of-circuit programming. So the first drawback is that it has high development time. That is, whenever you change the program, that is, whenever the firmware is changed, the chip should be taken out of the target board again, and then you have to plug it onto the programmer, again connect the programmer to the PC, and then transfer the new code again. So this takes a lot of time, so there is high development time involved. So whenever the firmware is changed, the chip should be taken out of the target development board and it should be reprogrammed, and then this has to be transferred back to the target board, and this also leads to chip damages. So the next point is the programmer can program only one chip at a time. Since the programmer has just a single socket for inserting a single device at a time, only one device can be, only a single chip can be programmed at a time, so it is not suitable for batch production. I cannot program multiple chips at a time, but there is a solution for this. That is, there is a programmer called the GAN programmer, and this contains multiple chip sockets for programming multiple devices. So there is a programmer called the GAN programmer. The normal programmer can program only a single chip at a time, but there is a programmer called GAN programmer that has multiple chip sockets for programming multiple devices at a time. But the thing is, it is expensive than ordinary programmers. Then the third disadvantage is it's very difficult to upgrade the firmware once it's deployed into the market. Once the product is delivered into the market, you cannot change the software or you cannot upgrade the firmware. Then it is commonly used for low volume products. That is, if the number of products delivered is less, or if you want to find out whether some device is working properly, like proof of concept products, we use this technique just for checking if the product is working well. So in such cases, and if the number of products to be delivered is less, this method can be used. And that is out of circuit programming. So can anyone say what is out of circuit programming? You can type it in the chat box. What is out of circuit programming? Hello? Hello? Are you able to hear what I'm saying? Abhilash. Hello. What did I say just now? What was the topic we were discussing right now? Okay, yes. Take the chip out of the board, program it externally using a programmer device, and then plug it back to the, remove it from the programmer device, remove the chip from the programmer device, and then plug it back. Okay, sorry. Take your attendance, please. Number 1, present. Number 2, Abhinav. Okay. Number 3, number 5, number 6, number 7, Arjun. Number 12, Sabina. Number 13, number 14, number 4, number 16, number 17, number 17, number 17, Mrudula. Okay, number 18, number 20, number 22, 22, number 23, number 24, number 26, number 27, number 28, number 29, number 30, number 31, number 32, 33, and number 3. Okay, all are present. Thank you.